humans, I cannot wait to introduce you to our guest speakers today. As we noted, the theme is radical, and we wanted to put together a really radical conversation about some radical humans. And shout out to some of our community members are always throwing us great speaking relationships and ideas. So shout out to Tom Harrison for the introduction and Lauren Schott for helping put together these three special humans. Let me tell you a quick moment or a quick bit about them, and then I'm going to just bring them up and they can fill us in on the details. Monique Brooks Roberts is a violinist hailing from Louisville, Kentucky. She recently relocated to Denver from the New Jersey and the Philadelphia area. Carrie Joy is an artist, educator, entrepreneur, and organizer, born in Brooklyn and raised on a church pew in Newburgh, New York. Raj Dalari is a jazz vocalist, actress, plus model, and certified Zumba instructor, born in Baltimore, Maryland, and raised in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Please welcome to the stage these three fantastic humans, and just say hello. The stage is yours.
Hi.
Hello.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We are so excited and honored to be here. We have a little presentation that we'd like to share with you all to give you an idea for us. Being radical artists is a 360 affair. It covers and it encompasses everything about what we do, how we work, how we live, how we love, and especially our friendships and our sisterhood with each other. The SIP is an incredible podcast, and it really, some of our powerful work is in highlighting Black women's voices. So we wanted to share, and women of color in general, their voices. So we wanted to share this presentation with you, and we hope you enjoy it. Give us one moment. And I just need to get my link. Hopefully you all can see and hear this. Awesome. Can you hear it?
Yep.
Thank you.
But I just remember saying, I don't want a corner office. I want the building.
Right. You know, you have asked me for a professional service.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I'm rendering it professionally.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Exactly.
Run me my money, fam.
Right.
That's real. And don't have me out there. Don't try and guilt me.
Right.
Just
That part.
wanting to take care of my family and take care of my life.
Any level of actual barometer for my creative contribution on the planet. But it's a part of my upbringing. It's a part of what my education had been as a musician. And growing up in a predominantly white city, white neighborhood, white school, I was used to being the one and only, and I just knew that there must be some other folks who look like me, with equal passion, equal purpose for wanting to render the same result. And I, at that time, had been doing a lot of commercial work, a lot of TV and film and like studio sessions. And I said,
I always hear parents and adults in general talk about the differences between an adult brain and a child's brain, but I feel like there's a lot of importance in that because we're able to see things in a way that you aren't. So, you know, always invalidating the way that we feel or invalidating the thoughts that we have because you think that you know better can be really detrimental, especially to the progression of something, because even if our two perspectives on something conflict, it can be beneficial if we're able to, you know, meet each other in the middle.
I can see all obstacles in my way. Come on.
Come on.
All of the dark clouds that had me down, let me tell you, it's gonna be a bright, bright, bright sunshiny day.
Yes.
Amen, Jesus.
Yes. Yes, it is.
You have
Oh,
blessed
yeah,
us all
comfortable.
tonight. You have absolutely blessed us.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Blessings.
Don't be scared. You can fly. You can fly. Fly.
Thank you guys so much. I'm really proud of that video. Shout out to my nephew, actually, Andre, who put that together for us. That was just to give you a little idea of what we do, the work that we've been doing, and how we've really restructured 2020 to amplify Black voices. So for that, I am grateful. You asked earlier, one of the questions was, what are one of the things that you're grateful for this newfound year that we're in? For me, that was one. Obviously it wasn't on the list for me to choose, but for me it was the fact that we kind of had a new platform, because we had to change up how we were doing. And so because of it, things have been really amazing in that sense. So I am Monique Brooks Roberts. I am kind of the creator, founder. I know Raj and Carrie say I'm the creator and founder of the SIP. I had an idea to create the SIP. And my idea behind it was, I think all women on here, and I think people in general, can relate to the group text, right? All the ladies, you have your group, your girls chat, and you're like, did y'all see that on the news, girl? What is going on? And you're sending memes and you're sending gifts, and it's funny. And so for me, I wanted to kind of bring that idea of the group chat into podcast form. And who better to do that with than two of the greatest people that I know in life, my best friend, Raj Jalari. We've been performing together for the last 10 years. Carrie Joy is just a phenomenal friend, a phenomenal human being. They both are. And I brought the idea to them and said, hey, y'all want to start this podcast? And so that's really when it was birthed. It was birthed in 2018. We aired our first episode in 2019, January 2019. And then, life got a little busy, and then we hit the quarantine and the COVID, and we restructured the podcast. And so what you're seeing is the hard work of that. I think it's really, really important to highlight the voices of Black women and women of color in general, because a lot of times, specifically about Black women, we get the rap of being emotional and angry and all these things, when really it's not anger at all. We deal with a lot within our communities, within our families, within our spaces. And so for me, having this podcast is radical in the sense of amplifying our voices and not really caring what the norm, challenging the status quo, not really caring what the normal looks like. And I think we've been killing it and doing a phenomenal job. And our guests have really loved it. I do want to just take a brief moment to tell you a little bit about myself. I am from Louisville, Kentucky originally. I was born and raised there. I moved to New Jersey in 2005. And for me, that was a very radical act. So when we say radical, it's like doing outside of the box that you were told. I was born and raised in a very strict Pentecostal religion. I had to wear my skirts down to the ankles. I couldn't wear jewelry, but I played violin and I played classical violin. So it was accepted and it was cool. And then when I decided to, do music full time, went to college, got a degree in violin performance. And I said, I'm leaving Kentucky and I'm moving to New Jersey. And not only am I leaving Kentucky, but I'm leaving this church that I was born and raised in. So that was very radical for me because it was not the life that I had calculated for myself. It wasn't, girl, this is what you have to do. I was raised in the family business as well. You're going to work for the family business. You're going to go to church on, 10 days a week and every revival, and you're not going to play violin. And for me, I said, no, I'm going to do it. And so my passion for music took me to New Jersey, South Jersey, near Philadelphia. I was there for 15 years. I cultivated my entire career while I was there. I've had, an insane privilege of being able to do music full time and travel the world and play for really cool people and compose and do really awesome things. And I'm proud of that radical step that I took. I think sometimes the word radical it could have a negative connotation, like those crazy radical left, the crazy radical right, the crazy radical Christians. But radical, it's whatever your personal definition of what that feels like for you is what radical means. And for me, leaving where I was and really pursuing my dreams was radical for me in the context in which I grew up in. So I'm really excited for the future. I adore the two women that I do this podcast with. You will have an opportunity to talk to them. And I'm really grateful to be here with you all this morning to talk about what radical means. I hope that you get something out of this that you can apply to your own life, that you're encouraged, that you're inspired by what it is that we are saying. And thank you so much for listening. I am Monique.
Word. Let's give it up for the founder of this podcast, the phenomenal Monique Brooks Roberts. And if you have not heard her play, I suggest that everybody, once we're done here, please be sure to go check her out. And the song that was actually playing in the video is by the wonderful Raj Dulari. So listen, we're about it. We're about it. We create in every aspect of our lives, I believe. And so, hi, my name is Carrie Joy. I'm a local poet, born in Brooklyn, New York, but raised, like it says in my bio, on a church pew, literally, very similarly to Monique. I was at church almost every day each week, 6 out of 7 days for me. And that shaped a lot of my life, right? And so being radical is honestly just being who I am right now and being unapologetic about it. That's the way I view it. I think of radical self-love a lot. I think of how to embrace myself a lot because I grew up in environments that forced me to look outside of myself for value and for worth and for truth and for life and for love. And I feel like a lot of us do. You know what I mean? But being in my full humanity, while recognizing my Blackness, my queerness, my femininity, my immigrant background, my artistry, my relationships, and every way that I walk in humanity, doing that unapologetically is what self-love means to me and radical self-love means to me. And I do it without apologizing for it. You know what I'm saying? I pave my own ways. I make my own moves. I don't ask for permission. That's radical to me. And recently I wrote this piece where I posed a question that said, why be human in secret? Because I feel like we do it so often. I feel like we are wearing these masks so often in our lives. And I've been on this journey. And, sometimes when you're in these spaces where more people might know you, you might be like a celebrated human being, whatever that looks like, right? A celebrity or whatever. I feel like sometimes I'm on that journey and everybody's watching me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, how do I do that? How do I find a way to go through my own personal things, go through my own personal journey while I'm still engaging with so many people in the public? And then I was just like, you know what, Carrie, why be human in secret? If you're on this journey, be on this journey, invite other people to join with you. And so I want to invite people every day in what I do as an educator and what I do as a poet. So whether I'm on a stage, or whether I'm in a classroom, or whether I'm organizing, or whether I'm doing my activist work, I want to invite people to be on a journey of figuring out yourself, understanding yourself, allowing yourself to love yourself. What I think is more dangerous, though, sometimes, is how we are conditioned to wear these masks and how we are forced to do it in order to survive. You know what I'm saying? And that's where a lot of my activist work comes into play. You know, we wake up, we put on our production face, we put on our performance face, we make the money that we need to make to survive, and then we find ourselves maybe complaining about, you know, being stressed or overwhelmed because we're not necessarily doing what we love or what fuels us or what helps us just, you know, survive in general. And I think whether we want to admit it or not, many times in our lives, we're absorbing a lot of trauma and we're not dealing with it. You know what I'm saying? And so if we don't deal with it, we pass it on to our partners and our families. And it's something that I feel like we need to kind of come face to face with. And it's something that I've been hoping that a lot of people, especially during quarantine, that have had the time, you know, that have had the privilege, honestly, because a lot of people are out there hustling, working, bringing us meals, you know, making sure that supermarkets are stocked, and they don't have the time. You know what I'm saying? But if we have the time, let's come face to face with that, come face to face with ourselves and deal with that trauma so that we're not passing it down. To me, that's radical self-love. And, you know, I think it's weird that it's inappropriate sometimes for us to talk about trauma, but it's not necessarily unacceptable to cause it. You know, that's an issue for me. And I think, you know, radical self-love is reclaiming my space, reclaiming my time, and saying, no, this is what happened to me. This is where I am in my life. And this is what we're going to discuss so it doesn't happen again, so that we don't continue to perpetuate this nonsense. Right. So I think, you know, I do that. Like I said, in everything that I do, and that's a lens that I bring to the SIP podcast. And, you know, trying to remind each other when it comes to, you know, kind of the way that we allow ourselves to live within these masks and don't always allow ourselves to be our fullest selves, and treat people sometimes in ways that dehumanize them. For example, you know, I was thinking about how it's illegal, right, in Denver for us to feed someone that might be unhoused, because it's like unsightly. It's actually illegal to do that. It's unsightly to see, you know, homelessness, right? But it's not illegal to pay someone below the minimum wage because they have a disability and they can't ultimately take care of themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that. And the way that we find ourselves treating each other, whether it be through laws, whether it be through social norms and mores, how do we challenge that? Because I feel like we treat each other the way that we think we deserve to be treated. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to find ourselves really challenging how we love ourselves. And to do that, we have to know ourselves. And when I think of the word radical, I think of, you know, my friend Molina was actually on Creative Mornings recently. He talked about what it means being, you know, the root, radica being the root. And we have to uproot some things and replant ourselves and reroot ourselves in what's true and what's pure and what's real. And so that's what radical, you know, self-love means to me. And that's how we represent ourselves on the podcast and everything we do in our platform. So peace, y'all.
Good morning, everyone. And I just want to first echo all of the beautiful things that my sisters just said. I am Raj Jalari. I'm a jazz vocalist, artist, Black woman motivator, and all around creative and entrepreneur based now in Denver. I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, raised in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I'm a Midwest girl to the death of me. And I really enjoy being here. I enjoy Denver. I think it is a beautiful community. I think that this morning breakfast meeting that you all have is really incredible. It's wonderful to see a platform like this for creatives, so that not only do you get a chance to come and network with each other, but I think too often creatives, we don't have a safe space to come and just meet and just woosah and take deep breaths and celebrate and, you know, get dressed up, especially in this pandemic time, if we're not performing, and just hang with our friends. So it's beautiful to see all of you. It's beautiful to get to know all of you. And I just appreciate so much Creative Mornings for giving us this time. A little bit about me. I have been a musician since I was 3 years old. I was born and raised in the Baptist church. And I, trained in Michigan and in music and in choir, and then ended up moving. I've lived in Texas, Ohio, Boston. I went to Berklee College of Music that I studied there for a few years before moving to New York. and being an independent artist in New York and then moving to Denver. And I was fortunate enough to meet Monique in Boston, and we've been friends for many, many years. Not only have we been friends, but we've been supportive, entrepreneur, cooperative friends. And I think that that's a really important, beautiful thing. Not only do you have creatives, but that you all are building together. And I am so honored and blessed to be not only friends with Carrie Joy, but for her to be my family. She is my sister-in-law as well. She is so incredibly talented. It has been an honor to share this platform with these two ladies because I think everything that we go through in general as artists is hard when you're alone, but it's just a little bit easier when you have your sisterhood and your friends around you. So they both of them have talked a lot about the definition of radical, and I love the definition. I think that radical to me is it's not just about the extremes of everything. It's also about how change is necessary no matter what, right? I think a lot of times when people do make the definition of radical, it is presented with an extreme mindset, either radical change and, throw out the old and in with the new and all of this stuff, instead of thinking about radical ways of changing your mind, right? We don't have to change all of politics in one day, but can we change just a little bit? Can we do some work with our local politics? Can we think differently about how our world moves together so that we can have a better world overall? That to me encompasses radical in a different way as well. But the one thing that I wanted to talk about today in my time is radical wellness. Because I think that in our society overall, when he posted the question about what are some of the best things that have happened during quarantine time, for me, I think quarantine has made me understand how important wellness is in my life. Yes, I'm an artist. Yes, I'm an activist. Yes, I think that my music and my art needs to say something, needs to do something, and needs to fight against the establishment. But if I don't rest, if I don't exercise, if I don't take care of myself, how am I going to be around for the long haul? How am I going to be strong for the fight for the long haul? So when the quarantine hit literally in March, all of us for a minute, we had our panic, we had our freak out, but then it was like, how do we get to work? How do we create art in this space? How do we, keep the SIP going? How does the podcast change and flex and grow? We had to change how we did our work as podcasters in the midst of the quarantine. But at the same time, even though we had all of this free time, so quote unquote, we were working harder than ever. So it became really important for me to find some balance in my wellness, even as an artist and as a creative. And that's how I started my wellness group, which I'll talk about in a second. But over the years, I've been fortunate enough to perform in some amazing spaces, but none of it has been as powerful and as good. All of the things I've done have been amazing, but none of it has touched my heart more than the SIP podcast and more than the conversations that we've had with some of the women that have been on our show. The reason why we put together this video for you is one, for us to see what we've done. We've been a podcast since 2019. Our first episode was January 2019. So here we are coming up on the end of our second year in the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of this madness. And we hadn't taken a second to say, what is the SIP? What is it about? What are the things that we do? And how do we use our platform to create radical art, to create radical conversations, radical self-love, radical wellness, all of those things that we needed to see as creatives in our world. I think for us being creatives, the three of us, even though we're independent artists, we've always tried to make art that met a need. So if, Black Girl, for instance, the song that you hear under our video, we created that song because I needed a song that celebrated Black women when you were afraid, and on the days when you're too afraid to fly, you need to remember that you have wings. And so a lot of times we do these things, we create all of this stuff just to feed our own creative need. And we're so blessed that the work that we have done within the SIP podcast has then also met a need for all of our artists and our creatives in our community. So it's been really important for us. I think that radical also means challenging the status quo. You can do that in so many different ways. When we were in our breakout room, Monique was talking about self-care as a revolutionary act. I think that that is so critical and so key. You can be radical in your pursuit of self-care, just like you are in your pursuit of justice, in your pursuit of equality and all of that in our communities. It can be all. It doesn't have to be either or. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned this year. Do the work, be a creative, create art that definitely speaks to the times, but also take a nap, sis, take a break. You know, it's okay. You don't have to solve everything, you know, overnight. So that's been an incredible, incredible experience. And I just wanted to speak a little bit to what Carrie said about processing trauma, and then I will let y'all go. Processing trauma, when she said, so we can heal from it and not perpetuate it, I think that's such an amazing thing to talk about. As an artist, we don't realize the trauma that we walk with. As a country, we don't realize the trauma that we walk with. And it's not even just the trauma that I might be experiencing as a member of an oppressed community, but also you know, there are communities that oppress other people, and there's trauma that is involved with that. And we cannot make any progress in our lives until we dig that stuff up, look at it, examine it, heal it, and then move on. And I think if you are an artist and you care enough and you know, you care to make art that challenges the times, then you will fold a little bit of that into what you do. Now, does that mean that you need to be like Adele and write a sad love song? Absolutely not. But considering how trauma affects us deeply and how we walk with it, I think a lot of the issues that we have in our country right now is because we're not discussing the deep trauma and the deep pain that we have. We are discussing it, obviously it's happening, but it's flaring up like this because we haven't dealt with it for so long. So all of this to say, who you are as an artist, who you are as a creative is important because it's from your own experiences, but how your art can uplift, empower, educate, and inspire other people, I think you have the biggest responsibility in the world to do that as creatives. So we hope that in this talk today that we challenge you a little bit on that, that we inspire you from the work that we have done, but that we all too realize that we have a collective struggle and that all of us together can make art and can do work that will improve our world. We are powerful individuals. We don't need, you know, a politic. We don't need Washington. We don't need all of that. All we need is this group of people right here and our heart and our love for community and wellness. So we are so excited to meet you all. Thank you so much for listening to us. And we're looking forward to having more conversations with you going forward.
Yeah.